I recently recorded a podcast with Amanda Frederick, and we basically laid out everything that we want to co create in our relationship. We did this first for us, just to have a record of it. It's nice. And also, as two, I'm 40, turning 41 soon. She's 37, turning 38. We're both Pisces. Wanted to share with other people, particularly Gen Zs, what the accumulated wisdom of a relationship looks like. I've been divorced twice. She has two kids. I have a kid, and I want here to share some of my experience of some of the transitions of being in a 40-year-old mature relationship with a mature woman as a mature man. And it's very different, I think, than what most people experience in their 20s and 30s. And I think of one of our best friends, Ben Duffy, who's 29, where he's at in his relationship. And we just recorded another podcast with him talking about our upcoming episode of The Prism, where we're going to have as many of Ben's former lovers in the same room and interview them about their experience with Ben. So Ben can learn, and so they can learn, and any repairs that need to happen, and any hopefully joyful moments as Ben decides whom he wants to be with for the rest of his life. And he's in a stage now where he's still learning and growing, as we all are. And so seeing what that's like, and then having interviews with people in their 20s as Gen Zs of what relationship looks like for them. So I'm now at this stage in the relationship where I'll first talk about myself. I am crystal clear on exactly what I want. Talk about it on my podcast a lot, talk about it on social media a lot, and to have that level of clarity around what I'm looking for, and then being very public about that. I want to have a monogamous, stable relationship where my child is safe in the community and in the family that I'm co-creating with my partner. There's no rush. I'm not rushing to move in with anybody. I'm not rushing to get married. But once you step into that stream and you're swimming in that water, you know where that river is going. There's only one destination unless you get out of the river. And so Amanda and I are very clear about what that will look like. We're not necessarily clear on how we'll get there. There can be, bends and turns in the river, maybe some, I don't know, some fun white water rapids, nothing too dangerous, but some excitement, maybe a waterfall or two that ends into a nice pool that then continues down the stream. For us, though, to know where that's going, we have to know where we are in life. And so when I reflect on what Ben Duffy, spiritual fuckboy, shout out to Penn, I love you, what he was sharing in the last podcast that we did together, he's still like exploring threesomes and going on dates and adventures, and it is a very open and expansive place. And that's perfect, particularly where he's at 29, 30. And he still has this deep yearning, although he's not necessarily with that person or who that person is yet, around wanting to have a family, wanting to co-create a long-term stable relationship. And maybe this is with someone that he's already been with, and he talks about that in the podcast. And so I'm excited to actually hopefully have that young woman on so we can learn more and hopefully do some repair, even if they never get back together again, but there's still love there and connection there. The reason that I use these examples is we need to have that internal clarity about what we want, and then to share that with our partner. And so what Amanda and I are doing is bringing that clarity to each other. And we then can kind of all in on the process. And it doesn't mean all in as in like move in together. It doesn't mean all in is to merge our lives together in some sort of interdependent, codependent situation. But it's about having clarity. And in that clarity, we then can relax into a softness of stability, where there still can be excitement. Sex is great and we're having fun. We're going out on dates and our kids are playing. We're going to, pinball with our kids. We're making cat hats for our cats with little like crystals and stuff, because little girls like arts and crafts. I actually like arts and crafts too. But we understand what that process is, and we have clarity around our intentions. And so I want to be able to share some of my experience, particularly as a male and someone who's done a lot of work on myself. So I was noticing even yesterday after all of this, because we're moving through this process with gusto and speed, Once I felt stable and solid in what we had co-communicated and were co-creating, I could feel I have a lot of like very armored, powerful parts, a lot of warrior archetype energy, very strong light stone, right? And she is very attracted to this for a good reason, right? She's got good taste. But that's a part as well. And beneath that, we have child parts, right? And I could feel as I'm cooking us dinner after a very long weekend of connection and lovemaking and hanging out with friends, that my system started to relax and started to settle into what we were actually building, the magnitude of it. And it wasn't even that that was overwhelming, it just was a lot. And I could feel that in my nervous system. And interestingly enough, earlier in the day on the podcast that she and I co-recorded, I could feel fear coming up in her. I think it was fear of being seen, fear of doing a podcast and sharing it with other people. The reason that we do that, again, is we really are trying to share our experience so others can learn and grow with us as podcasters and as, it's not even entertainment, but hopefully to inspire people to live good lives. And I named it during the podcast, but in that space, I was more of a like on-camera facilitator with her, showing up fully as Lightstone, the like adult male, strong person. But when we were back at my apartment and relaxing, my younger parts felt safe to actually come out. And this is very classic IFS. And when we look at our parts work through an internal family systems therapy lens, we can then understand how we feel in these moments, not to judge them. And I talk a lot. My kid lovingly says, "Daddy, you don't shut the fuck up." And I say, "Yeah, just like you, baby. Like apple doesn't fall too far from the tree." And so, because I'm very communicative, I can externally basically narrate what's happening in my interiority. And so I can talk about how I'm feeling. And that can be very helpful for one's partner if they're receptive and they want to hear it. And if they don't, then you're probably with the wrong person. And so last night I was noticing myself having my younger parts coming up. And what kept coming, like what kept arising in me, was this feeling of my big, like warrior protective parts kind of just sat down and moved to the side. And they didn't need to be armored up. I trust Amanda. We had been intimate, multiple times now, and we are very clear on our intentions, very clear on the container that we are co-creating. Literally, record an entire podcast. This is what we're doing. Like, this is it. It's locked in. Like, we shook hands. Like, deal. And so, like, I trust her. She's an adult woman, right? She's very successful out in the world. Like, she is honorable. I trust her, and she trusts me. And so my protective parts don't need to be protectors now in that dynamic. And what then emerged were my younger parts. And I named it. I was like, wow, I'm feeling like a 14-year-old part coming out. And he's like excited, but nervous and like just overwhelmed. He's not even scared. He's like wants to come out and just be seen by you, like adult human. And to feel safe in that. And then I could feel like an 8-year-old part come out and not even necessarily wanting to engage much, but almost wanting to just kind of check the outside, almost like if a cat, you open the door, I have cats, and they'll go out just to look around. They still want to go back inside if they're an indoor cat, but they want to see what's out there and they want to see if it's safe. And we need to be able to do this in a relationship, but we need to be able to do this with ourselves, where we have the internal cohesion as a unified system of parts to be able to have these pieces come out safely, to be able to communicate with our partner and to communicate with ourselves. Because when we don't feel safe enough to have these aspects of ourselves be seen and then to see the world, we then won't feel safe. And this is another way of looking at this, is it allows the anxiety that we could feel transition into excitement and letting that energy go. And I could feel, we call it a psychosomatic release or a catharsis in psychology. I could feel the energy like kind of flooding through me, just kind of like shake. I believe it's David Levine wrote a fantastic book about this, of mammals. After they become traumatized, it's locked in your body and that energy just shakes out of you. We are mammals as humans, right? And so we have to allow this energy to disperse through our bodies. And so because we're also cognitive beings, we can look through the IFS lens and then have the part emerge and then let that part really say its story. And these parts of mine, I've healed them. And so they didn't necessarily have much to say other than in the past, I've been in a dynamic with feminine, divine feminine, with partners, with my mom, with my other wives, with my other girlfriends that have gone very badly. And I have felt a lot of pain. And I'm not bringing that in as baggage, but I'm acknowledging those deep wounds in my past. And it's not even that I have fear moving forward in the future. Amanda is her own person. She's very different than a lot of these other people. And it's one of the lovely parts about being with someone who's an adult. But I still have a lot of energy around that and I can transform that into excitement. But acknowledging that and allowing that pain of the past to be seen by my partner and then letting it go and allowing those parts to be free to express themselves and not trauma dumping, right? I'm not like going, oh, this one time, this person, no, that you would do with a coach or with a therapist, but with your partner, and I can just share what I did and it worked very well, is to be seen, allow those parts to emerge. And instead of being fully blended and being an 8-year-old or being a 14-year-old, which is we call blending in IFS, you allow the part to come up and partially blend and talk and give it space to what in IFS we call unburdening. And they then can release that energy, unburden themselves of that trauma and of that pain of the past. Because sometimes that process of unburdening or releasing and catharting that energy out is just being witnessed, sharing with your partner, sharing with yourself, sharing with your other parts. So then there is space for something new. And then you have these other parts, for me, whether it's the 8-year-old, the 14-year-old, the 17-year-old, the 25-year-old, and now the 40, almost 41-year-old, to then be clean and no longer be burdened of those past experiences. We still have all of the learning of it. I have a lot of learning from my past relationships, and then a lot of learning from dating for the past 2.5, 3 years. And what that then looks like for me is coming to this new relationship, coming to this situation, not burdened by the past, but resourced from the learning of the past because I've allowed these parts to come forward. And so I want to take this as an opportunity for people when you enter into a new relationship to not bring this burden that you have from your past experiences, but allow yourself to off-gas that energy in a healthy way. And then when we do, we can be met by our partner, be free, be clear, and be open. There's going to be a lot that I will share through my process, hopefully as pun intended, like a prism, like our upcoming show, to be able to share my experience of someone who's been through immense amount of trauma in my past, of how I've healed this in myself, to give other people a bit of a guidepost of what that can look like for them and what their healing journey could look like for them, just as an example. Their journey will not be the same as mine. They probably won't go live in Buddhist monasteries. They won't live in a Benedictine abbey. They won't become a martial arts instructor. They won't learn meditation. They will do their own thing. You will do your own thing. But by seeing someone else's process, seeing how it goes, seeing someone who's gone through cancel culture twice, having their life explode. I made a bunch of money in my old company, and then everything was just absolutely train wrecked. And then my life got train wrecked again. And then to come out of that, not jaded, not bitter, not rageful, not resentful, and to come back and start building again, and then building again with another human, another person, and having that clarity of this is what I want my life to look like. This is the life that I want to have for my daughter and I. What do you, other human, in this case, Amanda, what do you want your life to look like? Is there synergy here? Is there a communion, a co-creation that we can create together? What does a Saturday afternoon look like for you? And understanding where we want to go together and grow together in life. I had no context of understanding for this when I was 20, 30, even up to 35. It's really only in the past 3 years that I've started to understand these pieces for myself. I wish I had had this knowledge and wisdom in the past, but I didn't. I am a 6'2" projector in human design, which is the role model hermit. This means I go through, I master something for myself, and then I share it as a role model for someone else. And that hermit aspect means that I have to kind of do it on my own. And there's a very lonely period. And now, as I transition from 40 into 41 and into 50, I get to share these fruits with other people. I wish I had had this wisdom shared with me. My parents did not equip me with this. Society did not equip me with this. But I hope that this sharing can be helpful for you. And you don't have to do exactly as I do. You should do as you want to do and you wish to do, but equipped with the learning from your forebears. If you're younger than me, that means that I am your forebear. And you get to stand on the proverbial shoulders of angels as you then make good choices for you. So I would suggest for anyone who is in a relationship, or anyone who is entering into a new relationship, or anyone who wants to turn the next page, the new chapter in their relationship, to really have internal clarity around what you are looking for and be really intentional about what you are co-creating with this other person. Because it is that clarity and that precision that then allows you to communicate and to make an agreement and have agreeance with this other person. Because whom you choose to spend your life with in this way, this is the most important decision you will make. It is who you will co-create life with if you choose to have children. And if you've already co-created life with someone else, who you will have be the primary influence other than you, and that person's, that child's other parent, biological parent, will be their number one influence. And so this decision is, in my opinion, the most important decision you will make. More important than the work that you do, more important than anything else, because it will influence everything else in your life. It's the person sleeping next to you. It's the person who's cooking you food. It's the person that you go to work for to bring resources back to the home and hearth to build with. They will dictate so many outcomes in your life. If you're not very intentional and very clear on what you want, you won't be able to make that decision well. I speak from experience, having been through 2 divorces. Now, sure, I have regrets of ways that I've handled myself, and I certainly have some frustrations on ways that I was treated, but all of those things in the past are learning to then prepare me for where I am now. And so I would counsel you to really gain that clarity. If you want help with this, we have coaching programs. I have a coaching program called the Stone Protocol because I don't shut the fuck up about it. I'm sure you've heard about it before. Amanda has a coaching program. Ben has a coaching program. Yehuda has a coaching program. He's here right here. We all have ways that we can shine our light to help other people learn and grow together. And you may find that Will Carr's coaching program is better for you. You may find that someone else's coaching program is better for you. But as a young man or a young woman hearing these words, I would encourage you to go out into your environment and to find someone or several someones and a community that exemplars the qualities that you would like to embrace in your life, whether that's a community, whether that's a coach, whether that's a therapist like Ben, to find someone to help you gain that inner clarity. And you don't have to necessarily enter into a formal relationship with them. You can just consume their social media. You can consume their podcasts, and you can then make that their lived experience part of your toolkit so you can make good, effective choices moving forward. I think for now, that's good. And so I look forward to sharing more. See you next time.